Let's dive right into this explainer and unpack what is arguably the biggest paradox in modern business today. We're looking at a landscape where technology is advancing at breakneck speed, and organizations are absolutely rushing to keep up. But despite having all these incredibly sophisticated tools at our fingertips, something is fundamentally broken in how we're actually applying them. Just look at the sheer scale of this: $3.4 trillion. That is the projected global spending on digital transformation in the year 2026 alone. And to put that into perspective for you, the broader market is expected to surge right past $5 trillion by 2031. Organizations are clearly not holding back. They're opening their wallets and pouring unprecedented amounts of capital into modernizing their operations, migrating to the cloud, and adopting artificial intelligence. The investment is literally massive.
But here is the shocking reality. A staggering 70% of these digital transformation initiatives completely fail to meet their original objectives. Just think about that for a second. 7 out of 10 times, all that time, all that energy, and billions of dollars just vanish without delivering the expected results. And this failure rate, it isn't a new blip. It's remained stubbornly consistent for over a decade, across totally different industries and geographies.
So how do we fix this? In this explainer, we're going to hit the trillion-dollar disconnect, define the digital journey, unpack exactly why these transformations fail, look at the metrics that actually matter, and finally, dive into the human factor.
Let's kick things off with part 1, defining the digital journey and bridging that gap. The truth is, a lot of executives conflate 3 very distinct terms, and honestly, it kills projects on day 1. So let's start with the absolute basics: digitization. This is simply the bedrock. It's like scanning paper contracts into PDFs or converting old VHS tapes into digital files. The primary objective here is not innovation, it's basic accessibility. It's just about turning physical information into data that a computer can actually use. You absolutely have to do this first, but on its own, it doesn't give you a competitive edge. It's really just cost management.
Next, we step up to digitalization. This takes that newly accessible data and uses to refine how work actually happens. Think of things like automating invoice approvals with workflow tools, or using analytics dashboards to speed up your decision-making and reduce human errors. You're removing friction, absolutely, but you aren't fundamentally changing what your business is.
And then, finally, we reach actual digital transformation. This is the big one. It's a fundamental organization-wide shift that requires courageous leadership and completely revised business models. It's a traditional high street retailer morphing into a platform-driven e-commerce operation, or a local healthcare provider shifting entirely to AI-driven remote care. It generates entirely new value and demands a massive cultural shift.
When you look at the distinct scope of each phase side by side, it becomes really obvious why mixing these terms up leads to organizations misaligning their goals and squandering resources. If you invest in a simple digitization project, but you're expecting transformation-level revenue growth, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Leaders have to use this shared vocabulary so everyone understands the actual scale of the change they're undertaking.
Which brings us nicely to part 2, why transformations fail and the illusion of progress.
So, if the tech works and the budgets are there, what actually goes wrong? Well, the biggest trap is tracking activity instead of tracking outcomes. And this creates a very dangerous illusion of progress. It's like your IT department celebrating a successful on-time cloud migration with a dashboard completely full of green checkmarks, while the sales team is still struggling to pull a basic weekly report. When your IT and business teams operate with entirely different success metrics, you end up with a transformation that is technically successful but completely irrelevant to the business.
And beyond just metric misalignment, teams are constantly deploying complex tech without addressing their fundamental issues. A massive 87% of operations leaders admit that garbage data quality is ruining the value of their digital initiatives. On top of that, everyone is rushing to deploy flashy generative AI, but they're completely skipping the structural governance required to actually manage it. You wouldn't build a penthouse on a broken foundation, right? But that's exactly what's happening. They ignore the basics and then wonder why the tech isn't magical.
Ultimately, it comes down to this. Every AI transformation is, at its heart, a people transformation. Technology is merely the enabler. If you don't build change fitness and digital literacy in your workforce, your expensive new tools are just going to become shelfware. The data consistently shows we are drastically underinvesting in the human capabilities needed to leverage this tech, because if people don't know how to use the tools, or if they fundamentally resist changing their workflows, the whole system just collapses.
Moving on to part 3, metrics that actually matter and how we measure real success.
So how do the successful 30% actually track their value?
Well, digital leaders, the ones who define their desired business outcomes before starting any initiative, they're seeing a 4.5 times return on investment, completely dominating the industry average of just 2 times. And here's the secret. These high performers aren't necessarily spending more money. They are just incredibly disciplined. They do not start a project without knowing exactly how it will impact the bottom line, and they make sure business and IT stakeholders are totally aligned from day one.
Interestingly, we're seeing priorities shift right now. Organizations are now prioritizing measurable operational improvements through employee productivity over just customer experience. We're moving far away from the spray and pray digital investments of the past. Your board doesn't just want a cool new app anymore. They want to see exactly how these tools make your workforce faster and more efficient, justifying the spend through hard operational gains. By utilizing specific outcome KPIs, organizations can connect their digital investments directly to real, tangible business value. Instead of just counting the number of features you shipped, you measure whether you actually removed friction by tracking your customer effort score. You track digital self-service adoption to see if people are truly using the platforms, not just checking a box to say the platform exists. This is exactly how you shift from tracking activity to tracking reality.
And that leads us to our final section, Part 4, the human factor, focusing on equity and access.
Now, everything we've talked about applies on a macro level, too. Looking at the World Health Organization's global strategy, they make it crystal clear. Deploying technology is completely useless if it doesn't account for equitable access and structural inequalities. The rapid digital transformation is reshaping how basic human rights, like access to physical and mental health, are exercised. If essential services simply move online without proper guardrails, we risk locking vulnerable populations out entirely.
And we are seeing these real-world digital divides lock populations out of progress today. For instance, there is still a 15% gender gap in mobile internet adoption in lower and middle-income countries. But it's not just there. Even in high-income nations, the digital skills gap costs the UK economy a staggering £63 billion every single year. Furthermore, top clinical AI datasets are heavily trained on data from just the US and China, which bakes structural inequalities right into the very algorithms we're trying to use to improve care.
Whether it's a massive global health initiative or just a corporate CRM rollout, ensuring robust privacy, security, and human rights standards is quite literally the only way to build sustainable digital trust. Weak data governance leads directly to privacy breaches and the unchecked extraction of sensitive data. And if users, whether they're patients in a clinic or customers on an e-commerce site, do not trust your digital system, they will abandon it, and your entire transformation collapses.
So here's the bottom line. Aligning technology with human needs isn't just a nice-to-have ethical choice. It is a hard, strategic business imperative. The numbers really don't lie here. When you prioritize people by investing in their digital literacy, actually listening to their feedback, and protecting their rights, your chances of transformation success skyrocket by 5.3 times compared to tech-only approaches. Technology is merely the tool. The people, they are the actual transformation. I want to leave you with this final thought to reflect on regarding your own organization's readiness and digital maturity. As we stare down trillions of dollars in future tech spending, you have to ask yourself, are you building a foundation of human-centric design that drives real value? Or are you just collecting green check marks on an IT dashboard? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.